Hey guys, welcome back to the Fit and Frugal podcast. I'm your host, Tawny Nguyen. Today I have here a super special guest. This is my friend Samuel, my personal gigolo.
Yeah, personal gigolo. And yeah, thanks for having me on. So yeah, I'm Samuel Young. I'm Tawny's personal gigolo. And honestly, every time I'm in Vegas, she's basically like my stepmom. She drives me everywhere. She makes sure we're safe, and there's always snacks. Fruit snacks in the car too.
I know, I'm always offering you my banana.
Yeah, she's always offering me like her banana. So if you don't know this about her, she always carries around bananas because she doesn't want to get cramps.
And protein powder.
And protein powder.
It's so fucking weird.
Yeah, but I feel like the protein powder is like a bit more obvious because it'll probably end up somewhere on your shirt at one point in the day. But yeah, we recently just met each other. I think it was about like last time we were in Vegas, like 30 days ago or something like that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And now, a lot has changed and we're like basically like besties now.
I know. Well, that's what I want to bring up is there's a lot of societal standards in terms of how long people think friendship takes to form. And there's a whole thing with me, it's about depth of relationship and not about width. Yeah. Because there's this current measure of like people holding on to history because they think they have history with someone and their friendship is so long going and so strong because they've known each other for like a decade. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm like, do you really know this person? Are you actually evolving with this person? Or is this just a person that has a width in length of time with you, but you guys are not really going anywhere? And it just kind of maintains on that like superficial level of like, oh yeah, I know him. We go way back. I'm like, way back to when? Like when you were popping bottles? Like at the nightclub and like doing bumps and shit together, or like what kind of go back is it, or is it that you actually went through some shit, got out of your shit, grew up, and then are still friends, like discovering each other. Yeah. So that for me, I think it's this modern like societal standard of friendship. It's really hard for people to believe that like sometimes when you meet someone for 30 days and yet we know more about each other than like some of my friends from like fucking high school. Actually, I don't have any friends from high school, like college.
They're all gone.
The second time I went to college, they're all gone. And do you have experiences like that to where you feel like as you are evolving, in your career and like shedding layers of who you used to be, that you still have like kind of like that guilt or that shame that you're like, but I have to let go of my friends and I'm constantly meeting new people. I have to constantly change and adapt because in this world of marketing, it's like you're constantly just, changing.
Oh, absolutely. I think something I've been realizing is it feels like every 3 months, I'm just like a completely different person. And that's actually like, it's good because I know I'm growing, and as I'm like trying to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish and it's actually happening, it also kind of feels shitty because you're like so awkward. You're not comfortable. You're like really outside of your comfort zone. And I think something that you said, tying back to like what we're first starting to talk about, was I love people who are just like themselves the moment you meet them. Yeah. Because it just like, it cuts out like all the bullshit of just like, oh, like where are you from? And all these things. And then, it takes you like 30 days to get to know somebody, but you could have just started like from day one. Yeah. And I also think it's like it's a filter, if you're just like, cause I grew up, I was like super shy. I was like extremely shy, and I realized I was like a people pleaser. So I would want everybody to like me, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't really myself. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm like really hanging out with the people I need to be. Yeah. So I'm like, well, maybe I need to be more confident in who I am and myself. And then next thing you know, I'm like, I have like the best friend group now. Yeah. Because they actually know me. So I know I went on like a little rant there, but so many ideas there.
No, of course. And I do want to piggyback off of that because you said something that kind of stands out. It's like authenticity attracts authenticity. That word gets thrown around a lot because now everyone's claiming they're authentic, but they're so afraid to be themselves because you said like the filter of removing those layers instantly. It's kind of like, for example, how we met is I'm like, get the fuck in the car. Yeah, yeah. But we already know like, all right, we're going to be homies. You know what I mean? But I think for that is, I think people are so afraid because everyone feels like they have to please other people, and that's how they get self-validation.
Yeah.
And even for you, like your Canadian accent came out a little bit when you're like oat, and I was like, that's so cute. And that must be like a cultural shock as well, right? Because now you're living in different parts of the world and you're experiencing like different culture as well. And I'm sure that helps you shed your identity of what you think you have to be for people to like you growing up. And identity is such a hard play because I think I kind of grew up like being bullied and just being made fun of.
Really?
Never felt like I was worthy, good enough, pretty enough. You know, because I'm also an immigrant. I came here at 10 years old. I had no friends. So for me, I was always like that weird kid that was like somewhere in between, you know, like not smart enough, not cool enough. And I was always constantly chasing that cool card, you know? And I think we kind of all did. Like we also just want to fit in or feel like people get us.
Yeah.
But I don't think that brick really hit me until I turned 30, which is like a few years ago, that I'm just like, man, like what is the point of fitting in? Because then you become like everyone else.
Yeah.
And your avatar, the person you pretend to be. That's why I was like severely depressed and like anxious all the time. Because I'm like, man, I'm tired of being this person for everyone. Because at the end of the day, I was like, I don't have anyone to call. You know, so what was that experience like for you, you know, when you're changing friend groups? And I know we went off on a tangent of like identity and belonging. And you said like you're finally now coming to terms with like every 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? You're changing yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have a core group of friends. But what does that process actually feels like? Like, what does that grief actually is like?
Well, I am really lucky. Like, I have a core friend group I grew up with. They're honestly the best. Like, I already know I'll be friends with them forever. But it's just like, you know, if you're just like the type of person who's trying to, you know, get as many friends as possible, you nailed it. It's like, are you going like deep in these relationships? Are you going deep within yourself? Or are you just like, you know, getting the width? So, yeah, so I am lucky. I have that core friend group. This process for me, like, I'll just tell you a story and that might be able to explain it, is I was planning to get like a 12-month lease after a trip from Brazil. So had a little trip from Brazil, went down for a wedding. I'm like, cool, after that, I'm going to settle down. I'm going to be responsible and I'm going to stop like traveling. So I've been traveling like for 4 years before that. And I'm like, 12-month lease, nice and boring, gym around the corner, groceries, 10-minute walk. Simple. So I can just focus on my goals. Well, that fucking didn't happen. So since, what is it? It's like April now, April 24th or whatever.
22nd. Earth Day.
Yeah, Earth Day. Yeah. I realized I've done more traveling since January than I have in the past 2 years. And that was like the opposite of what I was trying to do. And the reason for that is because these opportunities kept coming up. And I realized, I'm like, well, I really only wanted to get that 12-month lease because there was stuff I wanted to accomplish within those 12 months. But then I realized, well, I just put a timeline on my goals. So I basically accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish within 3 months. So now I'm like, well, I guess I have to like completely change like these other things that I thought I needed in order to accomplish my goals. Just kind of like the logistics of achieving the goals. I'm like, all that shit's changed. I'm out of control of that. So I still need to stay focused. And now I need to like figure out, I guess probably make bigger goals, really.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that, I feel like I'm in a different scenario where things are going really well too. So it's kind of like, man, I just got to keep like things very, very simple because there's going to be a lot of craziness going on, and just kind of, try to get some sleep in between.
Yeah. No, I picked up a couple things off of that. It's like first, I feel like this is your season of lightness because there's no such thing. It's like fully work-life balance or whatever, right? But it's like seasons. It's like how hard are you going in that season? Are you putting your head down? Are you focused? Are you disciplined? Are you staying on track of achieving the thing you said you want to do? And you said you achieved 12 months worth of work in 3, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Like I do want to touch back on that. Like it must take a season of darkness for you to be in this light of this season to like fully embody like where you're at now. But I want to ask you a question that like, why do you think with the level of productivity that we are ingrained to achieve, that we tie our like self-worth and self-validation to, the societal standard of measurement to your self-worth and what you are as a person? Like, why do you think we attach that so much to, because you're in sales and marketing. It's like, it sometimes gets like a little heavy layer of extra wordings around it that's really unnecessary. It's like a lot of fluffy language. But authenticity gets lost in there somewhere, right? So the first question is, like, how do you think, like, why we tie our worth to the amount that we're able to produce? And two, it's like, where is the line drawn in between authenticity and marketing and sales? And how has that like really affect you as a person that's in that space?
Oh, that's a good question. And honestly, I think like identity is something that I've always struggled with. And I think it's something like I just kind of accepted, like, oh, I'm never like the person who's just like, this is the one thing I do. So the reason why I'm actually in sales and marketing is because I'm passionate about music. Like, music is the one thing I can say, like, I identify as somebody who absolutely loves electronic music. And I've been producing and DJing for like 15 years. So I'm obsessed with it. However, when I had my identity tied to like, oh, Sam the DJ when I was growing up, I didn't have my shit together. So I'm partying all the time, making terrible decisions.
Yeah.
And eventually you start, this passion for music, you start doing it for other reasons. That's not about the passion. So then I was just like unhappy with that. And eventually I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I really need to like go out, see the world, start traveling. How can I like take that first step? That's when I started finding marketing, digital marketing, which eventually led me to sales. But I guess like the one thing I'm really authentic about is I like what I do. I like marketing and sales. But I tell people, I'm like, this is just practice. So when my music stuff really gets to where I want it, I know how to market that and I know how to sell it. So I tell people, I'm just doing this because these are valuable skills that's going to help my passion. So, yeah, I guess like identity is like something I've always struggled with, where this year I've kind of like narrowed it down. I'm like, I'm in sales, I'm in marketing, my passion's music. But if you ask me what I do, I'll probably tell you I'm a stripper.
Hence the personal gigolo.
Yeah. And I guess like how Tawny and I like start joking about this, just to give everybody context. I was telling her, we're sitting down at the blackjack table, and one thing that you get all the time is like, oh, so what do you guys do for work? And without hesitation, I'm with my friend Jeff. I'm like, oh, we're actually male strippers. And she's just like, no, you're not. I was like, shit. I thought everyone was going to laugh at that. Nobody laughed except for me. I was like,
yeah.
Well, fuck. I bet Tanya will find this funny. So I hop in the car with her this morning. I'm like, just told her this story. And I'm like, hey, Tawny, so yeah, I made this joke and nobody laughed. And, the blackjack dealer was like, hey, what do you do for work? And I'm like, guess what I said? And she's like, I don't know. What do you say? Like, that you're a stripper or something? I'm like, you do.
Because we homies, man.
Yeah, she do immediately.
Yeah. And that's why there's always a joke. I'm like, and next time when you get better at your sales and marketing, it's like more believing in it, right? Because yeah, it's like jokes are, what do they always tell me? It's like, it's how it's delivered. It's like, do you believe in your messaging? Because that ties into marketing. A lot of marketers that I hear their messaging, I'm like, I don't feel heart in it. Like, I don't think they believe in it. But that's just my biased opinion.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of feel energy in like how people do one thing. It's how they do everything for me. So I'm like, if you don't believe in your messages, it's like, what the fuck do you believe in? Who the fuck are you? But that's why we said we're going to next time go to the same lady and then said you got a raise and like, I'm actually a personal escort now. Yeah. Raise your standards, baby.
That is right. Like, you are true. So like when I'm doing sales calls, like, people will sometimes like ask me questions because they're like, salespeople get like a really bad rap, and a lot of salespeople like are completely fake and full of shit. So when people like ask me, they're like, oh, so like, are you really passionate about like sales? I'm like, no, I do this because I want to get paid great so I can have my weekends off to work on music. And they're like, oh, really? Like, what? so you're not like, 100% into sales. I'm like, no, man. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I just didn't want to be eating ramen noodles. Like, I want to have a good quality life as I'm, focusing on my passion. But like, no, I'm not, like, this isn't the number one most important thing to me in my life. If I, was doing music full time, like, I would prefer that, but I'm not there yet. And I find like people actually like once I break it down for them, they respond better on the sales calls because they're like, oh, like, this guy didn't tell me like the canned salesperson line. He actually just said something that most people on a sales call wouldn't say. It's just like being fucking honest.
Yeah.
So then everything I said in that call, now they believe everything because they're like, oh, this is like one thing where he opened up about something personal in his life. So, now I believe everything he said. And of course, everything else I did say on that is true. I just don't come off as a used car salesman type vibe,
With the script that just isn't, it's so inundated that like it doesn't, I'm like, I get their sales script and like you're a part of a lot of sales call, but I picked up two things from that. Might be a hot take or a shit take for most people. It's like sometimes passion does not pay and you have to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I think for us, we understand that as like we call ourselves creators and creatives because there's a lot of people I feel like in this content space that call themselves creators. They're like, I'm a content creator. And sometimes I just want to be like, no, you're a content maker. You're repurposing other people's content because you're using, especially AI, to extract data because you're having it learn the internet and you're repurposing that content. You're not creating it because it's not coming from originality. Like you are not the thought leader in that space.
Yeah, I agree.
It's great for virality, right? Because I think at one point or another, you also want that, partially ego, and two, metrics are beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a vain world that we live in for content creation, but at the same time, it's like, where do you differentiate that in your marketing, right? And you using AI and, but I really love what you said about the whole passion thing. So I'm going to stay there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I want to dig deeper into that in terms of like the messaging between people that say like, follow your passion, find a way to monetize it. It would be a longer kind of like more bumpier road. It's more contrarian than most because there are artists that are following the heart and they're creating out of heart. They're not making any money, but they love it.
Yeah.
So is that the measure of success and a measure of fulfillment versus the one that, no, this is what it takes? Like we are doing different things offline for money, but we create in this space, in a shared space because we love doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's sometimes a really painful thought to know that you're doing something for like no money. But once you become like at peace with it and you're like, this might take a little bit longer than most people, but I'm not selling my soul.
Yeah.
Just for the fact of I want to monetize fast because then you become those people that FOMO buy into all the courses and crash course of people selling you the idea that you can monetize in like a 6 month. But then in the process, you're actually not creating anything because now you're repurposing someone else's steps.
Yeah.
And I get so lost in that space right there of like trying to understand like, like that whole ego versus soul. Like, am I actually being pulled towards this or am I trying to push myself into the resistance of...
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're meaning.
Yeah.
And I thought about this a lot. So I'm literally the luckiest man alive. Like I get put in situations where I actually like learn some really good things and I learn a lot about myself in these situations. So I said I've been producing music for 15 years and DJing for 15 years. So music production, like what it looks like for me, it's not sexy at all. Like I'm probably tired and I'm just, sitting alone somewhere random. So like I live down in Mexico a lot and I'll just be in my apartment sitting on a uncomfortable chair and having the best time of my life and nobody can see that. And I'll sit there for 6 hours just making music. That's the thing I love. But is that the thing that really like builds your brand as, a DJ, as an electronic music producer? Well, no, like pretty much a lot of people right now is like DJing, you go play shows because then you're going to meet people. People are going to become a fan of your music. So that's really important to help grow your music. A lot of DJs right now, they're making like content, like Instagram reels and stuff like that. And I just kind of like looked at that And it'd be very easy for me to be like, oh, I need to be, playing tons of DJ shows. I need to be creating lots of Instagram reels and all this stuff. And I was like, well, I don't really fucking want to do that right now. Like, what I really want to do is create amazing music where it's like undeniable that I'm really good at creating music. So I'm like, okay, well, what's the metric for success that I can track on a weekly basis that's going to get me to where I want to be, which is just being that fucking music nerd, jamming out by myself, probably not even wearing pants because I just got done stripping. And like, what's something like I'd be proud of? So I boiled it down like, you need to create one really good song per week. And if you stay consistent with that over a year, like, like there's going to be some months where I might not be able to hit that metric. But if I stay consistent, try to create, 52 songs over a year, I'm like, it's going to make you a better music producer by the end of that. So 3 months into that, April right now, I've created 3 out of, the 4 songs that I need to hit for my personal KPI. And I posted, the songs on my Instagram and stuff like that. And people really like the music. They're like, damn, this is good. So for me, putting the ego aside of being like, oh, the DJ, you're going out late, you're going to get, all these free drinks, you
Hookers
can get your friends, hookers and blow. And as a guy too, like you want to go meet girls like on your free time too. So being a DJ is like not too bad for that. But I had to like really boil it down to like, what is going to impress you? What are you going to be happy with at the end of the year? So actually I removed it as like a goal. It's just like, this is just the habit you need to focus on. And I used to write out my goals every single day, but now I just write it out as my to-do list. Like, this is just the stuff I need to do. Cause now it's not like this big fucking thing. It's just like, if you need to get groceries, you just write down a list, you go to the store, you get the fucking groceries, you come back, it's not even a big deal. And I'm like, that's how my goal should be. It shouldn't be a big fucking deal. This should just be the shit that I do. Therefore, it's all this mental craziness, you getting in your way, self-sabotaging yourself, doubting yourself. So like, nah, this is what I got to do.
Yeah. And part of that is being accountable and knowing that you have the self-responsibility for yourself. And I feel like a lot of failure is people setting too much vague goals that doesn't really mean anything. And then they don't know how to work backwards from that goal. It's because they're setting this arbitrary date and an arbitrary like amount, because money is the easiest thing to quantify. Yeah. They're like, I want to make $1 million by the end of the year. It's like, okay, cool. How are you going to get there? What do you have to do per quarter?
Why do you even want $1 million?
Like why? And it's always about being so intentional with the goal. It's like, is it truly something that you want, or is it something that you see on social media, or that's what you think your quasi friends are doing? Yeah. And it's always picking back on not even being intentional with yourself. Like, is this truly what makes you happy? Because I really like the part where you said, like, am I doing it to impress myself of the person I become like towards the end of the year? So I do want to touch base on like, what is your definition of success, and how has that changed over the years?
Well, I already feel like I'm successful. So a big dream of mine was to live by the beach, have enough money where I'm not worried about my bills. And I thought that had to be like a really big number too. And be able to make music every day and be, a half decent person and a male stripper. So, and I just kind of like thought like at the start of this year, I'm like, fuck, I already have that. But I didn't realize I already had that because it looked completely different than how I thought, because it's the way I have it set up right now is not like the normal path. So, I live down in Mexico most of the time, and I pay $1,000 a month for rent.
Wow.
And I live a 10-minute walk from the beach. Like most people who I tell that to, they're like, that's insane. I'm paying like, my left nut for rent right now.
The firstborn.
Yeah. And I'd love to be like a famous DJ, but at the end of the day, I'm like, the thing that lights me up is just being able to, work on music. That's like the thing that I find the most fun. And then having a good job, my expenses are a lot lower in Mexico. And I don't have a car. I don't own a house. I don't own a bunch of shit. Everything I own fits in my ugly green suitcase I've been traveling with forever, everywhere. I call it Hulk. And I only really own like 50 pounds of stuff.
Nice.
And a lot of that is, half of it's like music equipment. And then the rest is like 5 pairs of shorts. So, I have everything I need. So I do feel like I've already, for the most part, got to where I want in life.
Yeah.
That I'm like, fuck, how did I even get here?
Yeah.
And I do want to, dream bigger and do more stuff, because I'm, 31 years old. I got to keep doing stuff and keep doing stuff. There's like that saying, like, you're either growing or you're dying. So I want to keep growing. I don't want to die.
Well, we're all dying. Hate to break it to you.
But really, my point there is like, there's different ways you can get creative that I found, this just worked for me, is I set up my life differently to get the things that I want.
Yeah.
And it didn't need to be like, I need to make, so much fucking money where I can then go buy all these cool stuff and have my life set up. It's just like, I'm a kid from Canada, grew up in a very small town, always wanted to travel the world. Never saw an ocean in my life until, I was like very, very, well, on vacations and stuff, but never lived near the ocean. I'm like, I want to live near the ocean. It turns out like you don't need much to do that if you're okay not having a ton of shit that you have to pay monthly and it takes all your money away. But I do have a question for you. So you got these over here, shifting gears a little bit. So what's going on over here?
So shout out to our homie over at Lowtail. This is like my 28 days sober.
Okay.
So
well, congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm slowly dipping my toe into experimenting with mocktails.
Yeah.
Because before I had this like all or nothing mentality. It's like either I drink or I don't. But I'm like, I didn't give myself grace to get sober, because being sober is kind of hard sometimes, because I am stressed at times. And I'm like, I'm either going to eat a pound of chocolate cake or I'm going to go back to drinking. But it's not even like that. It's what sobriety actually taught me. It's like how to be less of an asshole to myself. And it comes with the people pleaser thing. I'm like, how come I can make other people around me happy, yet I'm not happy and not satisfied with who I am? And there was never true contentment in like me as a person. So that lifted a whole veil of like whoop ass. Like I opened a whole can of whoop ass on myself, not even just like sobriety as a health measure, but like it helped me work on my self-awareness, like my discovery, like a lot more. And now I'm like, I'm still the funny fucking asshole, and I don't even need a drink to.
You're not an asshole at all, though. Like,
no, I'm an asshole to myself, because there's like internal voices that I've battled, right, with like ongoing process of like mental health issues growing up and all these like complex traumas and stuff I was diagnosed for. I didn't know how to cope with it. But now when I share my story and then they're like, well, you don't look like an alcoholic. I'm like, well, thank you. Like, do you want me to beat you in public? Is that what an alcoholic does, So my friend Corin, she's very supportive, and she's like, hey, like I would like to share like products with you, because she was going through the same process of like not having options when we go out, because this drinking culture is so normalized.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when I was a bartender, like I was a functioning alcoholic. I went to college just fine. I was overachieving just fine. But at the end of the day, like I'm just really unhappy with myself. So I shared that with her. Heard the same thing. And when you tell people now, it's like when you don't drink, unless we're already friends, they give you like the weirdest look. I'm like, what? I don't want to destroy myself anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's so normalized. And that's something I want to touch on, like in probably future episodes, that it's like, it's okay if you don't want to drink, but it has to come from a sovereign place. Like, why are you getting sober? I got sober for me. It's not because it makes society better, but I feel like I bring so much more value to my friends. We still have a good time. I'm not even drunk. It's probably better that I'm not drunk.
Yeah.
Because who's going to drive you guys?
I don't know if I'd want to see you drunk, to be honest. Like, you have enough personality. Like,
all 6 of them are just fine.
Yeah. But I do know we're becoming better friends, because what she brought me was the margarita mocktail. And she knows I love my margaritas.
Yeah, you're a margarita boy.
Yeah, I'm like 50-50 on the, is it better to be like sober or, like drinking stuff. And I realized like, man, I did the sober thing and it was life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
So on January 2020, I was like meditating like 2 hours a day because I really wanted to like rewire my brain and do some stuff. I'm like, oh, you should take a year off drinking. So I did.
That's what your higher conscious kind of told you.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, COVID happened. I'm in the best health of my life, all this stuff. So I was like, oh, well, now I found out why I had to take that year off drinking. Like, you need to be prepared for this year because it's going to be tough for, a lot of people. It was. But I was in like the best mindset for that entire year and it really helped. But nowadays I'm like, man, I just don't really want to be stressed with life. Like, I'm just going to be like, if I want to go have some drinks and stuff like that, like, I'll be like, yeah, like, I don't even want to think about it. I just want to be chill. And then if I got stuff I need to do, early in the morning, then probably won't go out that night. So I don't know. I have like a different point of view of it. Like, it changes all the time. It's like, I just want to be like, I just want to have fun,
Yeah.
I think that's my core value, just like having fun and really enjoying life, because I've also been depressed in my life too. And I think the thing that changed for me was like, okay, like, we'll go like a little dark.
Yeah.
So, when you're depressed, like, you do think about killing yourself.
Yep.
And I say that because I know, like, I'm not like the only person who's experienced that. But then I also think about everything. And I'm like, well, if you kill yourself, how do you know it's not fucking worse on the other side? It could be way worse.
Oh my God.
You could be like, I was like, shit, I gotta fix myself because now I'm like, I can't go through with it. It could be terrible.
Yeah, I love that pessimism side to look at death.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you think of it as a sweet relief, but I never had that perspective. Like, what if it gets worse?
Yeah, it
like,
could
what's
be way
worse
worse
than living now?
Yeah.
Because I know you've experienced, I'm sure, like those moments to where you're like, what would it be like if I don't wake up? Because every night we get a little taste of death. It's a little sleep, right? And I'm like, what if it just feels like this blissful, but forever?
Yeah.
And that's what the voices tell you. And it's just kind of like, is it really a relief, or is there another hell that you haven't experienced yet?
It could be way worse.
Wow. That was a really cool perspective.
It could be better though, too. I don't know. But yeah, that's what like kind of, I thought, I'm like, well, if it could be worse, I'm like, well, what would it look like if just right now, I'm like, I just spend the rest of my life trying to just make each day a bit better. And then that's when I found out, I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm probably just unhappy with myself for the most part based on like my routine. I have like a routine that makes me unhappy. I'm doing shit that I don't want to be doing with my life. I'm like, honestly, like if I'm like stepping away and like looking at myself, and that's what I think meditation really helps with. I'm like, kind of get why you don't fucking like your life. Like, you're living unauthentically.
Yeah.
So going back to that, so that's when I was like, cool, if things don't work out here, you're gonna die and probably could be a worse place than you're already at. So that scared the shit out of me. And then I'm like, you might as well just give it a shot. Like, you got nothing to lose. I think sometimes hitting like rock bottom, like with yourself personally, is actually like quite a freeing thing, because you're just like, fuck this shit. Like, I'm just gonna make a change. I think especially with guys too, like, I'll be honest, like we kind of have to like really fuck up before we are like, okay, I'm gonna take the man ego down a level and do something differently.
Yeah, it takes a specific, I think, self-realization for you to want to blow up your life. And I think you worded it perfectly. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom. Because for me, I thought it was COVID, but it wasn't even close. It was actually like 2021. And like, I'm still crawling out of it. That's why I'm comfortable talking about it now, because it took me 3 years to crawl out of that fucking hole. At one point in 2021, I didn't even think I was going to make it to like sit here in front of you.
Wow.
Like, that's how like dark it was. But I never talked about it because I just didn't have like real friends, and I couldn't share my what I was going through with anyone because I just didn't want to burden them with more. And that's a serious mental health blockage that I have. It's always a self-worth thing. It's always like, why do I need to bother someone else? Like, I'm sure they have stuff going on. If I'm not contributing, I shouldn't be a problem. But I hope that more people that listen to this podcast understand that it's not like that. Like, if you can be that for someone else can be that for you too. You just have to develop the skill to ask, or even to just genuinely share. Because vulnerability is something that's really missing in our lives, because our digital persona is built on marketing, on being strategic, on branding. But no one has a fucking sense of clue how to connect to other people.
That's true.
Because now they're comparing themselves in this comparison culture to something that doesn't really fucking exist. And they're comparing themselves to like a false narrative of what they think someone else's life is. Because I've reached out to a friend recently. Her social media is great and everything, but I recently talked to her and she's like not doing well.
Yeah.
But her post is fine. Her team's still posting her personal content and all that stuff. I'm not going to like say this person by name, but you never really know what someone's going through, especially now that we have like teams, or we're outsourcing someone else to build our personal brand because they're not doing the deep internal work.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
You know, and it's half of that. It's you don't even know, like, I don't know, I haven't looked at your social media, but so it's really hard for us to even look at each other's social media and think like, oh, that person must be happy. Yeah. Because I think that's the worst fucking bullshit that we're fed to. It's like, look at this social media, you know, like their page is great, like all this stuff. But I'm like, it's not even them.
No, I 100% agree with you. Like that's why when it comes to like, you know, just like my, you know, brand, who I am, I work for a company where I don't need to necessarily build my marketing and sales brand to be able to perform and do a great job at that company.
Yeah.
That's Jeff's job. Jeff is the face of the company. And before I started working with Jeff, I was doing marketing, and we needed to make content, put that shit out there to grow our brand. So when I realized, I was like, I really just want to be a music guy. Like, I don't care about being the face of this shit. And I'm just doing these skills so I can promote my shit better when the time's right. I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm just going to go get a job.
Yeah.
I'm no longer the boss. Like, I'm going to get a job. And it's been 100% better. And a lot of people, you know, they might, you know, be caught up in this identity, going back to the identity, like, oh, I need to be the boss. And at that time too, I was working with like two partners that were like my best friends. So we're all just like equal partners. And I'm like, even then, I'm like, yeah, like I need to quit this, even though, you know, I love these guys, and, you know, the probably could even just hate me for like dropping out of this. I'm like, I know what I need to do that's right for me to be more authentic. And I forget necessarily where I was going with that, to be honest, but could you remind me what we're talking about?
The ADHD just kicked in.
Yeah.
Now I was staring at this, so I really want you to try it though.
Yeah.
You have to open it. Like I really want you to try it, because as a margarita man, like I can't call you margarita man and not have you try a margarita.
Let's try it. And I'm like,
I don't know if we're supposed to shake it. Oh well.
I'm like pretty rough on people if they tell me like a margarita.
Give it to me straight, baby.
Shout out to Bella. So we're at this place, I think it's Durango or whatever, and asked her opinion. I'm like, hey, how good is the margarita on a scale from 8 to 10? She's like, oh, it's like an 8. I'm like, okay, cool, get it. Yeah. I'm like, I get the margarita. There's no lime in it and there's no salt. I'm like, this is...
It's like a -4.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No,
it's not that bad. It's maybe like a 5.5.
But it was no 8. I was like, this is like maybe a 4 margarita.
I was all mean. I was like, -4.
I didn't want to tell her, but now I'm going to have to tell her to watch this.
Well, now I'm going to clip this and send it directly to her. I'm just kidding.
She'll be very impressed. Oh, fuck, actually.
Yeah?
You know what?
There's no lime.
This is pretty good. What I like about it is it's a little bit sparkly.
Really?
So, yeah, there's like some carbonation going on, which obviously isn't really, you know, margarita, but... And it says hydration, made with real sugar cane.
Ooh, not the
So
sucralose
it's pretty good.
shit.
Do you want to sip?
I kind of want to try it. Yeah.
Yeah,
scared.
it's actually pretty good. I'd say it tastes like a margarita light.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I would do differently is I'm not big on, like, if she could make a sugar-free version of this, it'd be
It might taste
margaritas.
like ass.
Not really.
No.
No. Have you ever had like a Celsius? Like the energy drink
Yeah, that
Celsius?
tastes like ass because it's all sucralose. Well, it's not sucralose is not terrible for you, but that's like sweetener.
No,
like stays on
it's
my
like the
palate.
fake sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I like that stuff.
Well, let's meet her next week and you
yeah.
give her that.
If she can make that, like I'll be her brand ambassador.
That would be like the next sets, right? Like the skinnies.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I was trying to think of that word. I'm like, what the fuck is that word?
Yeah.
But no, I think where you were going to that we fucking completely. This is why ADHD people like try not to hang out with other people.
I know. I know.
But I wanted to circle back because we were talking about authenticity and your definition of success when I asked you, and then you kind of brought up to that story of like living on the beach. So for me, what I got out of that was like a feeling. Like success to you is a feeling, how free you feel and how liberated you feel in your own skin and like in your life choices.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
So I guess like a big thing of like my happiness, like that I feel like makes me happy is clarity. And there isn't like much like unknowns. Like I know I'm comfortable in my own skin. I know exactly where I want to go, and I know I want to have a fucking great time on the way there. That's why when we were talking about like the drinking stuff, I'm like, yeah, if I wake up with like a hangover someday, like I don't beat myself up about it, because I'm like, because I could go crazy obsessed with goals, and I'll be like too obsessed with that goal where I kind of actually like I'll stop even like smiling. I remember my ex-girlfriend said that I was like trying so hard to get this shit done.
Yeah.
She's like, you don't smile anymore. I was like, fuck, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life, right? And I didn't even notice it because I was just so caught up in like, I need to wake up, I need to get all this shit done today. So I need a little like craziness going on in my life. Nothing like, okay, I'm gonna like, ruin my life, but I need to get in like a little bit of trouble. Yeah. Or else I'll get in a lot of trouble all at once and just do something ridiculous. So I like to have, fun and, get in a little trouble here and there. Yeah. But also I just know exactly where I'm going. I don't need to get there tomorrow. I have a 30-year plan for all this music stuff. And it's actually like I have this crazy dream where I genuinely believe we can solve a lot of mental health issues through music. And the reason why I think that is because when I go to bed, I have to like listen to something in order to fall asleep. I remember I was watching the show Narcos, and there's like this crazy violent gun battle thing. And in my dream, I'm like, I fell asleep. It's on the TV. I had the craziest dream. I was in that battle, and I was just like, I remember I could feel it. Like it was like a lucid dream. I'm like, this is insane. And I woke up. I'm like out of breath. I'm like, I gotta get out of bed. Like I'm feeling terrible. And then I thought about that. I was like, that dream really like made me feel like almost like in a different world, almost like a different person. And then I watched like a Joe Rogan podcast the next night, and I had this dream where I was in like a podcast chair. I'm like joining in on the conversation. Yeah. I'm like, this is so weird. And then that's when I kind of like was, also really into meditation. I'm like, the shit that I listen to is like literally, changing like who I am. Yeah. And then I started thinking about it more. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, back in high school in grade 9 in Canada, we all looked up to Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne was the fucking shit.
Oh my God.
And Lil Wayne always talked about smoking Kush. So next thing you know, we're in grade 9. We're love.
Yeah.
We're falling in love with girls left and right because we're just young boys,
young horny
and,
boys.
Yeah, and we're like, shit. How do we get girls? Well, girls like cool guys, and Lil Wayne's cool.
Yeah.
And he smokes Kush. He sings about it in a song. So we're like, if we smoke weed, girls will like us because we're cool, like Lil Wayne. So I thought about that experience. I thought about like, when you listen to this shit, it changes you. And then that was my evidence. Next thing you know, we're all stoners throughout high school because of like these fucking songs. And then I'm thinking like, well, what kind of music are we listening to right now? And it's like Wet Ass Pussy by like Cardi B. I'm like, what the fuck are we learning from that? Just like
that's the song you have here.
Yeah, I'm like, how is that helping like my nieces become better people? I'm like, it's not.
Yeah.
So this is where I have this vision where I believe if I can build a brand that's cool, kids will listen to it, regardless of the message. Kids look up to people that are cool, majority. We can say, you should be doing X, Y, Z, so you become like a great adult. But me personally growing up, I didn't want to listen to what my parents said.
Yeah.
I didn't want them, you should do all this stuff and become a good person. I was like, no, fuck, I want to be Lil Wayne, bitch. I want to be cool. I want all the girls to like me. And he smokes weed, so therefore I do. So I'm like, if I create this brand and it's cool, kids will listen to it regardless of the message. And then what's like the thing that we need to do that? Well, I need to make really good fucking music.
Yeah.
It needs to sound like Cardi B, Wet Ass Pussy or whatever. But we need to maybe change the message on that.
Yeah.
And figure out, this is why it's a 30-year plan, because step one, I need to make really good music. Step two is like, how do we create a message that's really cool that kids will be like, because they're just gonna go do it. Like, oh, that's cool, therefore I'm doing it. And if we can like create this message where it's like, maybe it's like, hey, I like this song, it's cool, and the message is to like, go meditate.
Yeah.
Or like go see your grandma or something like that. Like, I don't know what it is, but just like good things, good habits.
Yeah.
Then these kids will start doing like good things on a regular basis. And I believe that, just inspiring kids through music, or it's almost maybe like brainwashing.
It's like pattern interruption through subtle programming right now, because I feel like they're also getting brainwashed, but it's by propaganda and it's by negativity.
Yeah.
And all the stuff they're fed, like, which is very unconscious, because 90% of the population are on autopilot and they're very unaware of their surroundings and things that they're influenced by, which is why when you brought up Lil Wayne, I was laughing, but I understand what's the meaning behind it, is because like the whole pop culture, like social fear has a huge impact on kids, because they're caught more than they're taught. So if they're put into a fishbowl of just wet ass pussies, like that's all they're gonna know, because they're so limited into the capacity of how much they can absorb. And I love that mission, because when you're saying like have something meaningful, but like be cool about it, because we struggle with that shit. Like, how do you make like positive impacts and all these fluff words now that we crave so much? It's like vulnerability and positivity, not like the signs on fucking Home Goods wall. Yeah. It's like, how do you build a brand that doesn't sound like, live, love, laugh? It's like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
Give me some fucking substance,
I 100% agree. So, meditation's a big reason why I'm not depressed anymore. But I had to hit rock bottom to get there in order to like go find this information, start learning about it. If I was just like, meh, like I'm all right, I'm not terrible, then I probably wouldn't have gone seeking for that information. But if this shit was cool, like, oh man, like this stuff's awesome, it's trendy, like it's in, and I was growing up, then that information is now like very easily consumable. And people just like, it's like, okay, this is a lot of work to figure out this meditation stuff. But what if someone can just put their earbuds in, go to a Spotify playlist, listen to some cool ass songs that they already want to listen to, but it works exactly the same way as programming your mind as a meditation. I'm like, that's sick, because people won't even have to try and it could help them. So that's kind of like my 30-year plan. And I think there's other benefits of it. Like, I can pull up my phone, and if people want to check out my Instagram story, I could be doing something like positive versus like, you know, something not as positive, and just be authentic as well. So I think
I love that.
Yeah, it's I also just might be insane, but who knows?
We're all a little insane. It's okay. If we weren't insane, we wouldn't be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like your energy would reject me or something.
Yeah.
You know, we got to be a little insane. No, I do want to wrap with something that I think it has been really meaningful for me is a question that it's like, hey, what are you really proud of that no one knows about? And for those that are going through it right now, the rock bottom, the darkness, what message do you want to leave with today for those people and how they can get out of it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I guess like I'll just leave like with something that like really helped me, and just like, you know, like don't take life so seriously. Like we create like all this like seriousness and stressful shit in our life. Honestly, like everything really is just like stuff that happens. And then we assign like the meaning is like, oh, that was some bad stuff or that was some good stuff. But at the end of the day, if everything, you could just like look at it from like a neutral perspective, that's what like I try to do all the time, not perfect. Then I can just be like, hey, you know what? This is like something that would really like normally like really fucking, you know, hurt me. Maybe like a girl I really liked didn't text me back or something like that. And I'd be like, fuck, man, like I'm such a fucking loser or something like that. Yeah. Nowadays, it's just like, oh, she just didn't text me back. Okay, cool. I'm just going to go about my day or something like that. That's a really, or like it's, you like order some food and, you know, they fucked up your 5-scoop matcha latte and instead of putting in easy ice, they put in like hard ice. Yeah,
or hot.
Yeah, I just learned about these matcha lattes today. But you could be like, fuck, like this sucks. And you're starting your day off so negatively. Or you could just be like, oh, you know, maybe that lady just like forgot and that's fine. Like I could just get a new one or something like that. So I guess just like for me, something that's really helped me is, you know, just not taking life super seriously and just looking at like, hey, you know, if I want to do something, like it's not this crazy big thing. It's just something I'm just going to go do.
Yeah. There was a word that came up while you said that. It's detachment. Sometimes we just got to detach from ourselves and our ego and what we really want. And for me, what helps when I was going through darkness that I wish I knew this 3 years ago, it's like for you to be kind to others, you have first to be kind to yourself. Yeah. And there's just so little self-compassion going out into the world these days for people to like even just look at themselves and give themselves grace first. Yeah. Before going out and trying to pour into other people. Yeah. So yeah, no, I just want to appreciate you for showing up and like sharing your dream and passion and all these things, and know that there is life outside of just money being a goal. Money is just a product of everything that we do and how we show up into the world, how we live with integrity, how we show up for each other, adding value. Yeah. And I think that's just that, you know, like not everyone has to be an entrepreneur, and your passion itself, it's something that you do. It's who you are. Yeah. Nothing that you do for money is who you are at the end of the day, you know? Well, exactly. And, you know, just like. So thank you for being here. Yeah. No, honestly, thank you so much. Like, of course. It's been a lot of fun, and let's do this again next time we come back into Vegas. Where can people find you on Instagram? Yeah, so you can just follow me on Instagram at Samuel_Young77. And yeah, if you guys just check out what my content is nowadays. You're gonna make me my intro music. Hey? Hey? Make your intro music? Yeah. Okay. I just thought of that right now. I was like, I would love for you to make me an intro and outro music because you know my personality, you know? Oh, yeah. Anyways, before we go on off on a fucking tangent, I'm Tani Nguyen. You can find me on IG at Tonisaurus or at Fit and Frugal Pod and all over other social medias. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you really love about this episode, or if there's something that we said that helps you in any kind of way and what you would want more from us. And feel free to reach out to Samuel and I directly. We would love to connect with people. Now that I'm not afraid to ask for what I want, it's like, go listen to my shit. Click that button down below or something, up or down or so. And stay fit, stay frugal. Peace. Peace.